You're listening to
the Beer O'Clock.
The Beer O'Clock Show.
You're listening to the Beer O'Clock Show.
It's Beer O'Clock, and this is the Beer O'Clock Show, where every week we take a selected beer and we drink it. My name is Mark, and joining me is my beer buddy, Steve. Hello, Steve.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, mate. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Very good. We've got a very interesting show tonight. I keep saying that, but it's true. We've got
Every show's interesting, mate. They're all interesting.
They are. And we've got two beers from an East London brewery, half of their core range, or half of their only range, really. We've got the Jackal Clubs and the Queen of Hearts from Wild Card Brewery in East London. Jackal Clubs being a Ruby Red, and Queen of Hearts being an IPA. But before we get to that, Steve, how's your beery week been, buddy?
It's been okay, actually, mate. I've had a good few beers this week. Pretty much enjoyed every single one of them. Standouts, really? I'd have to say we recorded a few shows on the weekend, the final few revisited shows, and one of the beers that we did for those shows was my real standout beer of the weekend, which was Fuller's Bengal Lancer. It was like going back and visiting an old friend, and I actually forgot how good a beer that is. So that was a real standout for me. Yeah.
Same. They're the only beers that I had last week. I did them all in one night. but that was my lot, and we'll have the revisited Bengal Lager coming to your eardrums over the next few months. And cracking beer, great little beer.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic. I mean, the only other one of any real note over the weekend was Buxton's Battle Horse, which is a beer that I've gone on about being absolutely amazing. It's out head and shoulders my beer of the year this year. It's a double black IPA. It's 10.5%, and it's just you would struggle to pick it out of a blind tasting as being black. It's just got all those big hoppy piney notes that you'd expect for an IPA, and then there's just this ever so slight hint of those roasted characteristics that you get from a black IPA right at the end. It's an absolute stunner, mate. Like I say, I'm nailing my colours to the mast early on this year. That's my beer of the year without a doubt.
Great. Well, hopefully when we're up north in December, they'll have it somewhere, and I can have a crack at it. Maybe.
I've never seen it in a bar. I've only ever had it in bottles and at festivals. So
okay.
We might be able to search it out for you, though, mate.
You never know, eh? We're going to get into our first beer now before we get to the news, because we've got two beers to get through, and we don't want this show to go on all night. So the first one we're going to do is Jackal Clubs, a Ruby Ale, 4.5%. From Wild Card Brewery, so let's get into it. Glug, 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 glug.
That is a nice looking beer.
It is. Nice dark copper.
Yeah.
Oh, lovely rich fruits.
Oh, yeah. It's just got dark fruit spilling out of that. It's like blackberries, maybe a little bit of raspberry in there as well. Just coming through on the nose.
Overripe plum, maybe?
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what, mate, that's a really, really inviting looking drink. I'm really looking forward to getting into this.
Well, let's get into it, buddy.
Let's. Cheers.
Cheers.
There's a little hint of like almost a smoked backbone to it going on in there. On the initial taste, there's certainly some of the more traditional sort of English flavours in there, earthy, woody, hints of the fruit that are on the aroma. Nothing massive in there though in terms of fruit flavours.
No, there's a definite woodiness with slight sweetness from the fruit coming over top, and a very nice lingering bitterness just softening on the palate as it dries off.
Yep, 4.5%, fairly sessionable at that amount. This is one that you could quite happily have a pint of this, I think, and then probably think, you know what, I'll have another one of those. and probably quite enjoy them. This was Wild Card's first brew. This was the first beer that they ever did when they were still home brewing. And you can hear all about that and the evolution of their beers on an interview that we've got with the guys at the end of tonight's show. So make sure you hang around right until the end to listen to the interview with Wild Card and hear all about how the Jack of Clubs came about and all the other beers in their core range.
Cool. Well, while we continue enjoying this, or while I continue enjoying this, you can do some talking because you've got some news. Here's your pips. Beep, 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 beep.
Okay, so first out of the chaps on this week's news, we're going to do Beer O'Clock Show news. So just to let everyone know that we've got an update to the Season 8 beer list. We've been waiting to announce details of this one because we've been waiting for the guys at Cloudwater to let us know what their autumn range of beers is going to be. But we can exclusively reveal on tonight's podcast that we'll be featuring from their autumn range a New Zealand Hoppenweiss beer, which it's a style that we've never done before. Obviously, it's going to be packed with New Zealand hops, so we know the sorts of flavours that we should be expecting in there. But that'll be coming up in a few weeks, so and should now be widely available from normal stockists, and also Ibria now stock Cloudwater as well, so you can stock up on your Cloudwater beers from Ibria and use the discount for 10%. Next up in the news, we've got some news about some iconic Burton beers now get new brewers. So Burton-based brewer Worthington have two new brands taken on by a new company following a deal that's been struck with Molson Coors. Planning Solutions Limited will start brewing the award-winning White Shield IPA and Red Shield beers, having previously bought brewing equipment from Molson Coors early on in the year. They'll also get to run the National Brewing Centre in Burton-on-Trent, and the beers will also be brewed in the William Worthington Brewery. So that's some good old-fashioned beers coming back, a bit of a resurgence to the almost a new wave of English beers that are being brewed this year. And then finally in this week's news, Truman's have introduced a trio of keg beers. So for the first time, Truman's have put some keg beers into their range. So the East London Brewery, which has been putting its PAL into keg for 7 months, is now offering 3 new beers following an investment in a kegging line at their new brewery. So the beers will be Truman's PAL, Skylark and Roller IPA. All 3 available from later on in September. The PAL's are 4.1% beer brewed with New Zealand hops. Skylark is 3.9% Golden Ale, and the Roller IPA packs a punch with US and Australian hops and has a bitter, sweet grapefruit finish. And that's it for this week's news, mate. It was a really, really slow news week this week, which is probably good considering the amount of news we featured in the last few weeks.
I know. Last week was epic. This week, you got a chance for a bit of a drink. This Jack of Clubs is, it's just a great, tasty English style red. It's like sucking on a chair. Lovely woodiness.
What sort of chair would you be sucking on, mate? That's
chair.
What everybody's asking right now.
A wooden chair, of course.
Okay.
A good old traditional English wooden chair.
And is that something you do often?
That's what I imagine. Like when you say something tastes like a dog's private parts, we just assume that you're using your imagination, Stephen.
Okay, fair enough. Move on.
Move on. So, so what do you think of this one, mate?
It's interesting because as it's just been sat in the glass warming for a bit there and letting a bit of air get to it while I went through the news, it's changed its flavour profile a little bit. So those dark fruits that were there on the initial aroma have now started coming through into the flavour. The aroma's picking up. It's coming through. But yeah, all those flavours there, like you say, traditional. It's a good traditional English sort of red ale. What more do you want from it, really?
Yeah, I'm not getting much of the fruits now. I'm just getting a thick maltiness with that lovely woody seams coming through it, and a very faint bitterness on the back end, which kind of the lingering bitterness kind of just keeps making you want to have another taste of it. So, like you were saying, at 4.5%, this is quite a sessionable beer.
It's almost like a sticky sweet bitterness, isn't it? It's kind of like you've put some maybe some blackcurrant jam onto a bit of toast or something. It's that sort of stickiness that you're getting from it, and it is a real lasting bitterness, but it's not overly bitter. It's a wonderful sticky bittersweet finish.
Yeah, it's actually lovely, well-rounded little beer. I've had this one before because you can get these beers in a 4-pack. Which I'm assuming you can buy in their breweries and various other places. And I got one Secret Santa.
Oh, nice!
At work, my boss gave me a 4-pack, and so I tucked into them because they're his local brewer. They're in Walthamstow, I think.
That they are, yeah. About a 10-minute walk from Walthamstow Central Station.
Yeah, and the 4-pack is pretty affordable, really. I mean, I think they have it at a source to market, but they at least have the individual bottles. But you can get it in various places around London, and I'm sure a little bit out your way.
Yeah. No. I mean, it is a good 4-pack, and like I say, you'll hear this in the interview at the end. They've only got the 4 beers in their core range, and to be able to buy all of those in a little gift pack together is really nice because it gives you a way to sample the entire range. And it's at this point, I just want to say thanks to the guys at Wild Card because they did provide the beers for tonight's show. They did give these to us to drink and enjoy on the show when I went down to interview them. So. And they did specifically ask if we could feature the Jack of Clubs because that was their sort of maiden brew, as it were.
Yeah. So the next one is the Queen of Hearts. Are you ready to get into the next one, Steve?
I am. Just before we get into it, we had one comment on last week's show, mate, which was, and I say that like we never get any comments on the show, but we had one comment on the website on last week's show, which is something that we don't normally get, and it was from the guy that's been organising the Big Beery Night with me. So Phil Hardy.
Right. Yeah.
I was trying to explain how you spell his Twitter thing, Philard, Filrd. He said, yeah, you actually spell it like you say it. It's Phil Hardy. So it's Phil Hardy. So I just wanted to make that comment that actually you can follow Phil Hardy. It's the whole son of a guys, don't try and do clever Twitter names. I don't get them. I really don't.
Mark. Simple.
But Phil, thanks for pointing that out to me. At least I know your Twitter handle now says Phil RD.
What a clever boy. Anyway, Queen of Diamonds. This is an India Pale Ale, just a straight 5%.
Straight up 5%.
Again, finishing
already
out this
loving
half.
The aromas coming out of the bottle. It's like someone's just opened a packet of hops under my nose.
Finishing off the second half of the core range that we're featuring tonight. It's a lovely fresh nose on it.
That is incredibly fresh. That's grassy.
Mine's a lovely straw colour. Yours looked a bit golden, but that might be the light.
Yeah, it's it's a straw colour. Again, it's not too dark. Kind of, I suppose, in terms of IPA colouring, probably more on the American IPA side of things.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Quite pale.
Smells amazing though.
Yeah. Shall we get into it, buddy?
Yeah, let's do second beer of the night. Cheers, mate.
All right. Cheers, pal.
Oh, that is all sorts of juicy.
Yeah, plenty of hops in there for a 5%, isn't there?
Yeah. That's packed full of flavour. There's lots going on in there. There's definitely citrus. There's some grapefruit in there as well. It's not a bitter finish at all. It's a very, very easy finish on it.
Yeah, it is. The bitterness from the hops is very much up front.
Yep.
Like you're saying, lovely, fresh, grapefruity flavours coming through. It's like an American IPA, but a lighter version of an American IPA. You're getting those crisp flavours straight up front.
Yeah. Just going back in again for another guzzle of that.
A little bit toasty on the end.
Yeah,
but otherwise it's like an effervescent mouthful of hops and bitterness and flavour.
Yeah. Maybe very lightly spiced in there. Hints maybe of some orange as well, but all the flavours in it are in there that you look for in an IPA. And it's just got this. It's the finish is what's getting me, because it's like it's not sure whether it wants to be bitter. It kind of is, and then it isn't, and it is, and then it isn't, and you have another sip, and you just get this smoothness, and it's very well balanced, packed full of flavour. This.
Yeah, there's a lingering bitterness, but it's not this puckering bitterness or this one bitterness that makes you want to pause for a little bit. You just want to get back into it. And again, I've had this beer before, and I remember liking it. Despite it being an IPA, it's only 5%. It doesn't have huge smack you around the face hop flavours coming in. It's all kind of... There's a subtlety, but that bitterness that you want from an American-style IPA is definitely there, and you're not shortchanged.
But doesn't this almost show that... it very definitely shows the skill of the brewer, because it shows that you don't need to absolutely pack an IPA full of hops and ramp it up to 7-8% to get those flavours. This is just it's as flavoursome as some of those bigger IPAs, but it's coming in at 5%, and it's one again. You'd order one of these and you'd enjoy it and be like, I could do another one of those quite easily.
Yeah, it's, shall I say, very respectful to the palate. It's easy up front, makes you want to keep coming back to it. The ABV just allows you to keep coming back to it. But otherwise, there are some IPAs out there that are 5% that kind of really try and overdo the flavours. And yes. Or at least for me, it's like, back off. Get out my mouth. But this one, very tasty.
It's almost like a gateway IPA, for want of a better phrase. I'll
be staying at the gate, but it's nice.
Yeah, really good, really good IPA. I'm really enjoying that.
Indeedy.
So we've mentioned a couple of times that these are two of the four beers that they have in their core range. Again, the guys do talk about it in the interview at the end, but just to let you know what the others are, you've got the King of Hearts, which is a 4.5% blonde beer. And then you've got the Ace of Spades, which is 4.7% classic London porter. Now I got to try that when I went down to the brewery, and it was an absolutely cracking porter. Really, really good. Give the 4-pack a try. Again, they're a brewery whose beers are available on eBrewer, so you can use our discount to get hold of these beers. And as Mark says, they're very widely available in lots of London stockists as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you're travelling to London for work, you're coming through St Pancras, pop into Source Market, because they've got these bottled all the time. They at least have the Jack of Clubs and the Queen of Diamonds, so you should be able to get the rest of them, I'm sure. Stock tips from Mark as usual.
Always know where to get the best beers, mate, don't you?
Now, shall we get into the Instagram of the week, mate?
Yes, mate, let's. Winner, I'm just going to go straight in. Winner of this week's huge box of nothing, and to use his own hashtag on him. This thing is impossible to win these days. Well, actually, Ian, it's not, because Fantastic Film is back on form this week.
Oh, check that out.
For a picture of a can of Northern Monk's New World IPA in front of a church. Like what you've done there. That's up on our Instagram feed. It's also linked through in the show notes. And if you want to have a chance at winning your very own great big box of nothing, make sure you put your picture up on Instagram. Use the hashtag Cheers Guys. And if it's the one that catches my eye, it will be crowned winner of this prize next week. Very
good. And an empty big box can... Well, not even a box, just an imaginary box of nothing.
An imaginary box, because I'm not paying postage to send you an empty box of nothing.
No. So let's get your final thoughts on this Queen of Hearts IPA, pal.
Without repeating what I've already said, it's incredibly well balanced. It's packed full of flavours. Lots of citrus in there, some orange, some grapefruit, leading to a lovely kind of soft bitter finish. Is it bitter? Isn't it? Doesn't know whether it wants to be bitter, but it's absolutely bang on. 5%, a real sessionable IPA. This.
Yeah, lovely mid and back palate bitterness on after the mouthful. Lovely and light up front. Slight sweetness. It's crisp. You get some lovely grapefruit flavours coming in. It's just, it's like grassy notes. It's very light on the malt. If you want to demonstrate to someone what an IPA is without giving them a Halcyon or something like that, then this is the great type of beer.
What's wrong with Halcyon?
Put your Clapton away.
Don't know what you're saying.
Right, and finally, hashtag hop topic, mate.
Yes, mate. Kind of went about it a little bit differently this week. So actually asked Twitter before we came on air for some views. And we actually got more engagement than we get when we just talk about it on the show and ask people to feed in. So before I share what other people have thought, I'll introduce to you what this week's hot topic is. And then you can share your thoughts. So basically the question that I asked this week, and this was because there were two discussions that I observed on Twitter at the weekend. One of them was, I think this guy's one of your mates, at Roan Bean.
Yep. Ronnie Bean.
He noticed the conversation that I was having with someone about a donation for the Big Beery Night. Somebody's going to be drinking wild beer, Co's Whiny Beast, which comes in at about 15, 16 quid a bottle. And Ronnie Bean was shocked by this. He was like, for a bottle of beer? That much? And to which I replied, it's a 750ml bottle. You'd pay that much for good wine. And his point is, yeah, but we've been conditioned to pay that much for good wine. As yet, that conditioning hasn't made its way to the general public for beer. So that kind of, I suppose, inspired this week's hot topic. And the question is quite simply, and I'm going to put this to you because I'd like to know your thoughts before I offer my own, and then what people have suggested. What's the most you've ever paid or would pay for a beer?
Oh, I don't know. How much is a big bottle of Unhuman Cannibal?
£10.
I think it might be about that. I've been very tempted because when I was up at Beers of Europe over my holidays, and they had some of those very fancy Thornbridge bottles. The limited range that they do.
Oh, the Thornbridge ones.
Some of them were proper pricey. Yeah, 20 quid or more. Some of those ones. So I was very tempted by that.
Well, what would you pay if it was a beer that you really wanted and that you maybe had not heard a lot of hype about, but maybe a few good friends from the beer community had said you have to drink this beer, but it's going to cost you X amount. What would X amount be?
Wouldn't be north of 10 quid.
Oh, okay. So you're still down there.
Well, because if anyone hasn't noticed yet, I'm not as full on into the beer as you are.
Yeah.
For example, you will
still trying to drag you. It's kicking and screaming over to my side of the fence.
Yeah, I mean, you will hunt the country high and low for a particular beer if it's something that you've seen highlighted and you really fancy tasting. Whereas if I can't find it at Beautiful Beers or down in Waitrose, then it's probably a good chance that I'll never taste it. I think I have paid a little bit more than 10 quid for some of the Gerzers, which are the aged Gerzers that I bought over my holidays and things like that. But they're beers that I will have on a special occasion.
Yeah.
If you think, how much are the bottles of the Fuller's Vintage that come out every year? They're like 6 quid?
6-7 quid, yeah. They're not
which isn't
expensive.
cheap.
No.
But, it's not £2.50 from the local shop. It's not much bigger than one of those bottles. So I don't mind paying a little bit more if they're going to be a special occasion. If it's a beer, like if Wild Brewery are coming up with a special beer, I trust them to put out a really classy beer because I like their beers. And if it's going to be a big bottle of something limited edition, I probably would think about spending 15 quid.
Okay, interesting.
It has to be within context. You can't just put out a bottle of beer and saying this is fancy, spend money on it.
Well, I actually think that's in line with what a few people have said. Pete McCary said he'd do £15 to £20 on a bottle. Carl Marshall at the Bearded One. Carl's been on a few of the lock-ins before. Again, 20 quid for a bottle, but 750ml. There's a few people sort of like on the other side of that coin. So Martin Oates, it's a tough one. Pay a lot more for some of the beers than I ever dreamed possible, which I think is possibly maybe where I sit as well, because I paid £42 for the Brewdog Sink the Bismarck. But
that's a beer that's going to last you forever though, because you can't drink that in a night.
Well, it didn't last forever. It lasted about 3 months.
No,
but it's
comparatively speaking,
the percentage that it was,
yeah,
you'd have to question whether, what are you buying there? You're buying a beer or you're actually buying a spirit? And if you're buying a spirit and you compare it to bottles of spirit, it's more comparable. But I think more recently, in the last week, I've paid £20 for a 330ml bottle of Buxton's Tsar Bomber Generation 1, which by all accounts is a beer to die for. And if I could capture the face you're making right now for the viewers, it's one of absolute shock. But I didn't rush into it. It was one that I thought long and hard about. And again, somebody else commented on the Tsar Bomber as well, that they were quite happy to pay 20 quid for that.
Describe this beer to me, Stephen.
It's a Russian Imperial Stout that Buxton brewed, basically using the remnants of a barrel of, I think it's Young's Russian Imperial Stout. So basically what they did, they cultivated the yeast from the original barrel of Young's Russian Imperial Stout, and they've recreated the beer in their own image.
ABV?
It's about, I don't know off the top of my head, it's well in the double figures.
Okay.
So it's, in
that case, I would think that £20 is more than I would pay, but it's not unreasonable, because that is a beer with legacy.
Exactly, and
you're not
the only thing
like that again.
No, and the only thing that I question is like, it's 330ml. That's a lot to pay for 330ml. Yeah. 15 to 20 quid for 750ml is about right. I mean, just to finish the segment here tonight. So just a couple of other comments. Miles Lambert, who was with us last week, begrudges going over a £5 a pint. Gets jittery when it's over £4, but then he is from Newcastle. Just there I go. I've just completely alienated all of our northern listeners. But then he does go on to say, however, uber special one-offs he'll generally pay whatever it takes to get them. So that's the flip side of it. Peter Sidwell's paid 30 quid for a bottle. Sean Smith has paid, same as I did, 42 quid for St. Bismarck. So yeah, I mean, it's an interesting debate, and it's one that we want people that are listening to get involved in. So if you've not already been mentioned, if you've not already had your say on this week's Hot Topic, using the hashtag Hot Topic, let us know what's the most you've ever paid for a beer, or that you'd be willing to pay.
Okay, that's an interesting topic this week, Stephen. Well done.
Well, thank you.
Oh dear. And just going back to the subject of people paying that much for a bottle of wine, one of these days people won't sniff at the idea of us drinking a big bottle of beer when people will drink a big bottle of wine and have a laugh about it the next day. I had a big bottle of wine.
Yeah.
An entire bottle of wine to myself last night.
Yeah. But if you go back to that point, which was the beginning of the conversation, and again, just to mention Rony Bean, as I say, what really interested me about that was because I guess I wouldn't put him on our side of the craft fence just yet, but he's somebody that's getting interested in beer, getting involved in beer, and it's interesting to see that the general public conception is still, no, I'm not paying that much for a bottle of beer.
Yeah. But saying that, he does drink in Wetherspoons generally, so it's usually quite cheap.
Well, we all do when needs must.
And you'll meet him in December, so bring your stepladder because he's like 8 feet tall.
Yes, which actually, that's a very good point, mate. I should have mentioned that in this week's news. The Crimbo Crawl, the news is now out there. It's up on the website. It went live last week. It's a 2-day affair, kind of. So we are going north for it, though. We are actually stepping outside of London. So on Friday the 18th of December, we're heading to the Magic Rock Tap Room in Huddersfield. We'll be there from about 5 o'clock. Come over, join us for a few pints. And then on Saturday the 19th of December, we're hitting Leeds under the strong guidance of the Leeds Beer Wolf. So Si, who's sorted out the route for us, helped us plan the route. He's going to take us and show us some of the best places that Leeds has to offer. But all that information is up on the website now. Just click on the tab that says Crimbo Crawl, and you can find out exactly what we're going to do.
And a great couple of days it's going to be. Don't beat the Southerners up, please.
Leeds is like my second home these days, mate. I'm fine.
Especially when I've had a couple and I decide to do my Yorkshire accent.
That's what everyone's waiting for. You know it.
Right, what's coming up next week, pal?
Okay, so next week it's going to be the first of a couple of shows that we're doing in the run-up to the Indie Man Festival. Next week is the first of the shows, kind of previewing and showcasing some of the breweries that are going to be at Indie Man. So next week we're featuring Manchester's Squawk Brewing, and we are going to be drinking their Espresso Stout, which has been brewed with coffee from Bean Brothers. So really looking forward to that one. Really looking forward to getting stuck into that one. And we'll also be joined on that show by a previous guest and friend of the show, Connor Murphy. Will be joining us for that review.
Very good. And don't forget to listen till the end of this show for Steve's interview with the guys from Wild Card Brewery, whose beers we featured tonight. Thanks again to those guys for giving us these beers. Jack of Clubs, Queen of Hearts, Ruby Red and IPA. After the tinkly music, don't forget you can get your beers from Ales by Mail, Beautiful Beers and Ibria, who all now offer a 10% discount to Beer O'Clock Show listeners on any beers from their website. So check out all the details on our beer list page on our website, which is beeroclockshow.co.uk. You can also find us on Twitter at Beer O'Clock Show, on Instagram at Beer O'Clock Show. You can find Steve on Untapped at Beer Show Steve. I'm on Untapped at Beer Show Mark, and I'm on Twitter at Beer Show Mark. Don't forget to subscribe also to our website newsletter. So just head to the website and it'll be on the right hand side in the little column. You can just click through and subscribe there. We will only ever email you when a new episode is out. Right, Stevie.
It's been the highlight of my week, mate. This has been a really good show tonight. Going to kind of miss doing two beers for a few weeks.
I'm not.
But I think the next double up show is we're going to be doing 4 on one. That'll be the Essex Brewers Showcase in a few weeks' time.
Very good. Right, until next week, guys. Cheers. Bye-bye.
It's Beer O'Clock and I'm here in the far reaches of northeast London with the guys from Wild Card Brewery. Welcome to the show, Jaga.
Yes, hello.
And Francesca.
Hello.
Who are here with us today. Guys, we've been sampling your beers on the show tonight. We've done the Queen of Diamonds IPA and the Jack of Clubs Ruby Red. So starting off with the Queen of Diamonds, tell us a little bit about the background to the beer.
Well, the Queen of Diamonds was actually the second beer that we made commercially. It is a 5% continuously hopped IPA, which means we add hops throughout every 5 minutes throughout the end of the boil. It's quite loud. It's very hoppy. If you're into ale, you'll like it, and if you have never tried ale before, you'll still like it. It's really wonderful. I love it. It's one of my favourites.
Okay, and we've also done the Jack of Clubs Ruby Red, which is an interesting style. It's a style you don't see so much these days. So tell us a little bit about that beer.
Well, the Jack of Clubs was actually the first beer that we actually made commercially. When we first came out, we didn't want to come out with a pale ale. We kind of didn't want to tread down that route that everyone else kind of treads down. So we decided to do the Ruby as our first one. We made it exclusively for a year and a half, where we were Wild Card Brewery with one beer, which was the Jack of Clubs, and it's a beer that's very, very it's lots of caramel, lots of toffee kind of flavours in there. So it's a very popular beer, even though it is perhaps the style you don't see it all over the place. It's still one of our best sellers, which is good.
Okay, so they're the two that we've featured. You've also got other beers in your core range. What are those?
So we have got our King of Hearts, which is our 4.5% blonde beer. I make that with 50% lager malt and 50% super pale malt in there. It was kind of designed really because of demand. We have our tap room here in Walthamstow, and we had a lot of customers coming in saying, "Oh, have you got a lager?" Blah blah blah. And like, we don't make lager, no. However, it kind of led us to the development of the King of Hearts. It's not a lager by any means, but it is a beer that's a little bit lighter. It's quite clean. It's quite crisp. It is a very good introduction into real ale. It's quite subtle in the flavour. So that's how that one came about.
Okay, and there's one more as
well?
Yep,
and we've also got the Ace of Spades, which is our 4.7% porter. So that particular beer is quite chocolatey, quite velvety, quite smooth. But yeah, it has a lot of drinkability of it. It's brilliant in 1 pint or 3. It really is a great beer for winter time, for autumn time coming up.
Okay, and you're the head brewer here.
I am, yeah.
If I've done my research right about the brewery, it was a hobby that got out of hand.
It was.
Apparently.
It was a hobby that got out of control. So we really all started as a lot of brewers do, as home brewers, which is actually how the recipe for the Jack of Clubs came about. There was lots of amendments and lots of developments until that happened. The actual brand Wild Card Brewery actually comes from when we were home brewing. We had several batches of beer, and to tell the difference between them, we put playing cards on them.
Okay.
And the one that actually was the recipe we went forward with was actually called the Jack of Clubs. That's not even a lie; it's a true story. and then from there, the name Wild Card came about. So we were just home brewing, and then it was a session time, and we're like, hang on a minute, this is pretty good. So we just kind of carried on, and then we didn't really have the money to get our own brewery together, so we started doing something called cuckoo brewing, which means you go to another brewery and brew a batch there, and then you kind of get it and you sell it, and then we did that again and again and again, until we eventually got enough money together for it was actually a loan from the Brightside Trust to be able to get our own kit here in Walthamstow.
Okay, and you've been here since 2014 now?
So we moved in December 2013, actively brewing on this site since it was early 2014, actively brewing here. We were based in the basement of a pub down the road in Higham Hill, but we're here now, yeah.
Okay, and I've come along today, and I've caught the end of what was a brew day experience here. Yep. So tell us a little bit about what that offering entails and how people can go about accessing it.
Sure, so the Brewer Beer Day, it's quite unique because you just come along on a standard brewing day. So today, it's Wednesday, we've gone for the normal schedule, we started at stupid o'clock, and so you join us at stupid o'clock for the brewing. So today we were brewing our pale ale, which is actually a cask beer that you can only get here at the tap room. And if you come along to that, you get straight in, mashing in from the very beginning, you're weighing up the ingredients, you are stirring, you are boiling, you are weighing, you are talking a lot about beer. So it's a really good way to sort of actually see a working brewery as well, as there's sort of no airs and graces, it's as is. It's really great to be able to talk through the process, because quite often you do brewery tours like we do, and you hear about the process, you'd maybe do home brewing and see it in action, but to actually see it on a bigger scale, on a commercial scale, in a microbrewery still, so it's small enough to be able to sort of feel that it's still hands-on enough to get stuck in. And that's what you can do here. So it's pretty unique in that respect. And you even get breakfast and lunch cooked by my own fair hands, which is positively delightful. So
and it's wonderful. It's
wonderful. And of course you get to try the beers, talk about the beers. So it really is a good start to finish, and also to meet like-minded people, because we get people from all over the place, and we get a combination of absolute sort of novices through to that really keen home brewer who'd like to come and see it on a bigger scale.
Okay, so, and you've also got a tap room here,
Sure.
which is open on weekends?
Yeah, it's Friday nights, Saturdays and Sundays. So we have events as well sometimes which run, so for example bank holiday's just been and gone, August bank holiday, and we had it open a little bit longer. So you can always come in and buy the beer. We have a lot of cask here, so you get it as fresh as you like, straight from the brewery, as well as all our bottled stuff, and we do offers, gift bags and things. You can also get some other local beer that we serve here, and if you're not a beer drinker, you are still just about welcome to come in and have something else. But it's a real destination for Walthamstow as well. We have lots of families, lots of regulars, lots of locals come, as well as people travelling to come and visit us. So we have that tap room, and it's always a nice atmosphere. We often have, we always in fact have, because you've got to have food if you're going to be here drinking the beer. We have pop-up street vendors. We have a residency at the moment from the Dobro Pizza Boys, which is very nice. We have bands sometimes, band nights, music, and we've just started our last Sunday of the month open mic nights. So music and beer and food. It's Holy Trinity really. There's nothing more that you need.
Okay, so you've got your 4 core beers in bottles now, plus you do exclusive casks on tap room only.
Sure.
What's next? Where do you take Wild Card next?
Well, at the moment, which is in development at the moment, is the new range we're looking at. We're looking at doing one-off batches. I'm not going to tell you what the first beer is going to be because it's still in development. We're going to be looking at doing one-off batches where we make however many thousands of bottles, and then that's it. That's all you can get of it. That's probably all you'll ever get of it. And then that's it. So at the minute, I'm hard at work looking at those recipes, but I'm really looking to make beers that people really want to drink, people want to enjoy.
So where can people find out more about what you guys do here?
People can find out more on our website, which is wildcardbrewery.co.uk. Twitter, we put everything we do on Twitter. So if you want to just have a quick look, Twitter's always a good one. All the social media stuff, Facebook, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. We have all of those. The Wildcard team can actually be found here every Friday afternoon, having a drink, sampling our own
your
beers.
products.
It has to be done.
Quality control,
Quality,
surely.
Exactly. So if you ever want to come and have a chat with us, we're always here Friday afternoons, like from about 5 onwards. So.
Okay, great stuff. Well, listen, I'm really appreciative of the time you've taken to chat to us today. I know you're running a brewery here, so I'm going to let you get back to things. Thank you ever so much.
Thank you very much.
Steve.
Thank
Cheers.
you.